I'd like to introduce Caru Prabhuji. He is, many of you have heard about him. He is the president and founder of the Utah Krishna Temple, a very, very famous temple in Utah in Spanish Fork. Very well known also for Festival of Colors, which was an initiative that was started by Prabhuji. And Prabhuji has also served as the temple president of Sydney and Melbourne, Australia, Berkeley, California, as well as director of life membership at Los Angeles Temple. He's also served as the president and founder of KHQN Radio in Spanish Fork, Utah. He's just known for how enthusiastic he is and how he connects with all ages and the preaching that he does in all different various communities. So we're very, very fortunate to have him here with us today. And let us welcome Prabhuji with a loud Haribo.
Thank you.
Haribo. Haribo.
We have a very enthusiastic group here today. Some of them are fairly new, a year old in our new congregation. Some of them, a couple of them are a few years, and some very, very new, fairly new to today's call. Take it over, Prabhuji.
I want to get a pointer from you. I've been preaching on what I think are 3 different levels during the lockdown. Actually, I had all these 3 levels with me the whole time for years and years, but with the lockdown and not physically going out, it's kind of crystallized in my mind. So there's scripture, which is purely about the glories of the Lord and the glories of the Lord's devotees. And that's the highest level of God consciousness. And I have notes here on a class I gave, Srimad Bhagavatam class I gave just a few days ago about Krishna's mystic powers. So we can talk on that level and in that category if you want, on, just like verse of scripture detailing the mystic powers, how Krishna is Yogeshwara. I also have a talk I gave right when the pandemic started, which I thought what it was appropriate. It's called Walk Without Fear, how to deal with fear in the present circumstances. And this is a prepared talk with a slideshow that draws from many different sources. Of course, it draws from our sources, our scriptures, but poetry and stories, anything from anywhere that makes the point to walk in faith rather than in fear. So you have those 2 options. I'll let you decide whichever you prefer. There's another level. I do a show on Sundays at 11 o'clock on Facebook from Caru, Utah, and it's just called Krishna Light. And it's stories we read about the Australian Yatra where my wife and I joined. We reminisce, we tell stories, sing rap songs. I have about 13 Krishna conscious rap songs that I do with music, and it's just to have fun, and anyone that drops in can see that devotees know how to have a good time without drugs and alcohol and all that related paraphernalia. So on my right here, I have Krishna mystic powers, and on my left here, I have walk in faith, not fear. What do you all want?
Lately, all our talks have been around our current situation, around coronavirus and fear and everything surrounding that. And I feel that we haven't heard enough about Krishna lately. So I'm thinking in my mind that maybe the first topic that you mentioned, as we hear about Krishna, that will also take away all the fears. So that's what I'm thinking. If I ask 45 people on the group right now, which I would have liked to if it was a regular class, they would have raised their hands. So that's what I'm leaning.
You don't have to twist my arm to talk directly about Krishna from scripture. So this is from the 1st canto, 1st chapter, 23rd verse. Bruhi Yogeshwara Krishna Brahmanye Dharma Varmani Sham kashtam odunopate dharmam kam sharanam gata. The translation, since Sri Krishna, the absolute truth, the master of all mystic powers, has departed for his own abode, please tell us to whom the religious principles have now gone for shelter. Essentially, religion is the prescribed duties enunciated by the personality of God in himself. Wherever there is gross misuse or neglect of the principles of religion, the Supreme Lord appears himself to restore those principles. Stated in the Bhagavad Gita, of course, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharatam. Here the sage of Namashran are inquiring about these principles. The reply to this question is given later. Srimad Bhagavatam is the transcendental sound representation of the personality of God, and thus it is the full representation of transcendental knowledge and religious principles. So wherever Krishna is, there cannot be competing with him, cohabiting, you might say, irreligion. Just like it says, Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andhakara. Wherever there's light, there can never be darkness. So wherever there's Krishna, Krishna is like the sun, Maya Haya Andhakara. There cannot be darkness, there cannot be sin. So the earth had become overburdened with sinful rulers 5,300 years ago. And Krishna descended to set things right, to rid the earth of that burden. He didn't do it all at once. The last fell swoop was at the Kurukshetra battlefield in the 90th year. He was on the planet for 125 years approximately. And he actually didn't destroy all the demons right away. Of course, even as a child, crawling in Vrindavan, Kamsa would send Protean wizards to kill him, and Krishna would dispatch them one after another, Agasura, Trinavarta, and so on and so forth. But he didn't kill them all right away. However, at the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he gathered those that were left, and then in one fell swoop in 18 days, he destroyed whatever irreligiosity still resided on the planet at that time. So in the Bhagavad Gita, just in the concluding verses, Sanjaya describes Krishna as Yogeshwara, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yata Partha Dunodara Yata Striya Vijobhutir Ruvanditir Matambhava. Wherever is Krishna, the master of all mystic yoga, and wherever there's his devotee Arjuna, there's victory, opulence, morality. This is my opinion. So Krishna is not just a minor magician. Prabhupada says we shouldn't compare him to Atlas. Atlas is holding up the globe, straining mightily, suffering. He's not a happy person. But Krishna, he holds by his remote power, by his mystic power, by the diffusion of his energies, he pervades and supports millions and millions of universes. This one planet alone, mountains and oceans, redwood forests, millions and trillions of tons, and yet it floats as if it were a wisp of cotton. Otherwise, even cotton itself, being denser than air, will go down. But these heavy planets remain floating in air as if they were lighter than cotton. And that is because of Krishna's mystic power. Now, the thing we have to realize about Krishna's mystic power is that it's all remote. He doesn't have to personally pay attention to every single detail in the creation. In fact, he doesn't pay any attention to it at all. An ordinary man always has this tension. There's work and there's home. Now, work is what pays the mortgage, puts the food on the table, and it's very important. But if he starts to spend too much time at work, then the family members will complain about quality time with them. But then if he accedes to his family's request and starts spending more time at home, then his career might suffer. Someone might get passed over him for promotion. His boss may not be happy. So no matter what we do, there's always this tension. If we do more of this, we feel guilty about this. If we do more of this, we feel guilty about this. We're caught between a rock and a hard spot because we can't be in two places at one time. But Krishna can. God doesn't have the problem that we have between quality, time, and management, because as the supreme mystic, what he does is he expands himself for the purposes of management. He expands himself into millions and millions of Vishnu forms. Advaitam Achutam, Anadim, Anantarupam, Ajam Purana, Purusha, Navayovanam Cha. He's one, and he has his own abode, Kaloka Eva Nivasati, Akalatma Bhuto. Krishna is captured and trapped, basically, by all the loving devotees in Goloka Vrindavan. It says he never sets foot outside of Vrindavan because Krishna himself is being God. He doesn't have to worry about management. He just expands himself into Vishnu forms. Then in each and every universe, Vishnu creates Brahma, Vishnu creates Shiva. So there you have it covered. The creation, the maintenance, and the destruction of each and every universe. And this is going, two words, it's going on automatically and it's going on simultaneously. And it's in this which consists of Krishna's mystic power. It says, Natasya karanam karanam chavidyate, natat samyas chavadikastudishate, parasya shaktir Vividaiva Suyate Shravavika Bala Gyanakriyaha. For Krishna, there's nothing that he has to do. There's no duty impending upon him. He is Karana Karanam. He causes everything, but nothing causes him. People say, well, if God caused everything, then who caused God? That's the definition of God. He caused everything, but nothing caused him. So he has nothing to do. He has delegated, expanded, and empowered Vishnu, and through Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva, and all the other demigods to do the management, to take care of creation, maintenance, dissolution. Take, for instance, the sun. In every universe, the sun is the most important planet. It's called Surya Narayana. It's an expansion of Krishna. If the sun blinked out, I don't know, maybe within an hour or 2 hours, everything would be dead within the universe. So it says, Raja Samaste Sura, Shesha Murtir Tejaha, Yakchaktura Esha Savita Sakara Garam Raja Samaste Sura, Shesha Murtir Tejaha, Yashagna Brahmati Samabritam Kala Chakro, Govinda Maripurisham Tamaham Gajami. So the sun is the most powerful planet, and the sun god is the most powerful Lokapal in each and every universe. And yet, Lord Brahma himself, the creator of the universe, says that every day to the second, the sun god mounts his chariot and appears according to a scheduled measurement on the eastern horizon. And he sets. It can all be predicted, Farmer's Almanac. So, you know, maybe the sun doesn't feel like it every day. Maybe he had a bad day. Maybe he got the corona. Maybe whatever. But still he does it. Under whose order does he do it? Because we all know that we don't always feel like doing our duties every single time. But we do it because we have an obligation to our family, to our friends, to our boss, and ultimately do what we do for God. He's he's the one that we show up for. So who is it that the powerful sun god appears every morning at the horizon to the second? By whose order is that going on? By whose order are the seasons changing? By whose orders are the flowers blooming and blossoming and emitting fragrance? By whose orders do the seeds germinate, produce grains and fruits and vegetables. By whose order it says, does death chase everyone? Your time is prearranged. When it's your time, you go. And you don't get any notice. You don't get any preview. One day you wake up, you feel fine, but little do you know that by the end of the day, by nightfall, you will have left your body. So who is keeping that schedule? Who is ordering Yamaraj to tap each and every one of us on the shoulder when the sands have run out of our hourglass? This is stated, I think, by Uddhava in the 3rd chapter. Mad bayad bhatavatyam surya stapati varsatinda vidhatyagnu mitis charati mad bayad. Out of fear of Krishna or Govinda, the planets are going at thousands of miles an hour without colliding. The sun is rising according to schedule. The seasons are changing, and death is chasing everyone. Govindam Adipurusham Tamahang Bhajami. So Krishna hasn't got anything to do in terms of management. That's all taken care of by Vishnu. So what's Krishna all about? He's about love, not physical, not erotic, not sensual love, but he's all about quality time with his devotees. He makes such an arrangement that he'll never be bothered, he'll never be disturbed. And he makes himself available, playing his flute, Yam Shaiman Sundar Machinta Gunasharupam. He wants us to know that he's not going to go out for a coffee break. He's not going to have a lapse of attention. He's not going to go for a round of golf. He wants us to know that he is always, just like he's always on the altar. Every day you open the curtains and he's always there. So he's always there for us. He's been waiting for us since who knows how many creations and dissolutions. Because Krishna is a love addict. As much love as Krishna receives and reciprocates in the spiritual world, there's still something unique about each and every one of us. There's something about you that's unique, one of a kind. That means you're irreplaceable as far as Krishna is concerned. That there's something, certain intimacies, certain aspects of your personality. And Krishna made you just so that you could complete him in terms of loving reciprocation, but you're not with the program. You didn't go along with the program. We wanted to go off in another direction. Krishna says, okay, because your love being forced doesn't mean anything to me. So go ahead and misuse your independence and I'll always be here for you. I'll never forget about you. I'll never get tired of waiting. I'll never slip out. I will show you my faithfulness, even in the face of your lack of it. So that's the message that Krishna sends by standing in threefold bending pose, playing his flute, peacock feather in his hair, underneath the moon by the banks of the Yamuna River. That he's steadily and consistently and constantly longing for each and every one of us. That's not to say that he's not fully engaged in the spiritual world. That's not to say that he's not satisfied with the service that's being already performed by countless trillions and trillions and trillions of Nitya Siddhas. But it's still to say that he misses you. On some level, he misses you. Krishna feels that he's not complete until you go back to the spiritual world. Let's take the example of a father that has maybe 5 sons. And so he's home on the weekend. He gets up early, Saturday morning, gets up early because he wants to play with his sons. And 3 of his sons get up early with him. And they're out in the yard wrestling, or playing catch, basketball, throwing the football, laughing, giggling, embracing each other, hugging. And it's fun. They're happy, they're fulfilled. But 2 of his boys are sleepy. Two of his boys are still in bed. So as much fun as the father's having with his three sons, there's a part of the father which is thinking about those two boys and wishing they would just get up and join the fun, isn't it? It doesn't really take away from the fun he's having with those three boys, but he's wishing that for their sakes and also to complete the family circle, they would get up and come on down and join him. So similarly, Krishna longs for us. Krishna hankers for us. And even though we're prodigal, even though we're forgetful, Krishna's not. And he'll never stop reaching out to us through scripture, through guru, that small, soft voice from within the heart that we get so good at ignoring. So here the translation goes on. Narayan, the Supreme Personality of God, has nothing to do. He has multifarious energies, and therefore he is able to remain in his own abode without endeavor and automatically supervise and manipulate the entire cosmic manifestation. These interactions create different forms, bodies, activities, and changes, which all occur perfectly. Because the Lord is perfect, everything works as if he were directly supervising and taking part in it. Om Purnamada Purnamidam. The Lord is full and complete and omnipotent. So that means that whatever comes from him, including this phenomenal world, including these planets, including his Parashya Shaktir, his multifarious potencies, they're also endowed, embedded with knowledge. They also act perfectly, even without his personal attention. If it required his personal attention, then there would be something lacking in the way that his energies were acting and programming. But he has empowered them and he has released them. And if there's any supervision required, it's Vishnu, Rama, Shiva. He doesn't get involved with management. So the essence of Krishna's mysticism is that automatically the entire material and spiritual creations are going on. And simultaneously, everything's going on in the material world, the spiritual world, and Krishna is fully engaged in loving pastimes in the spiritual world. Chintamani pakara sadmashu kalpa viksha surabhi palyantim lakshmi saha sadbrahma sevimanam govindam maripurusham tamam vidam. Now, when you think about it, Krishna's coming here to destroy the demons, to fight the tyrants like Kamsa and Sisupala and Jarasandha. When you think about it, that's pretty much a managerial task, isn't it? That's pretty much in the category of management. And so in the prison house of Kamsa, when Krishna appeared before Devaki, Devaki and her husband in a previous life had done penances and austerities for 12,000 years. And their desire was that when the Lord should descend in the future as an avatar, that he would do so as their child. They didn't want to know what God could do for them, but they were those rare souls who, through the intensity of their love, wanted to know what they could do for God. And they thought in the role of parents, we could be the least selfish servitors. Parents sacrifice so much for their offspring. So Krishna awarded them that. And when he appeared in the prison house of Kamsa, he appeared as Vishnu. 4 arms, club, mace, discus, lotus flower. Now, out of love, Devaki has this maternal protective instinct. It's Yoga Maya. So she doesn't think that, well, here's Vishnu. I mean, you know, what can Kamsa do against Vishnu? No, she's looking at it in her own way from Yoga Maya. And this is her service. This is her service to do this. She's thinking, Krishna, you're too obvious obviously a threat to Kamsa. You need to get off. You need not to be such a big icon on his radar. You know, obviously when he comes, he's going to, and at this point she didn't know that in a few hours the guards will fall asleep, the chains will lock, and Vasudeva will get him out of danger to Gokula. She didn't know that. She's just doing what she honestly felt she could do to protect Krishna. And so she asked Krishna if he wouldn't disguise himself or take on his two-armed form as Krishna. And this is the form that doesn't strike awe, that doesn't intimidate. This is the form that the devotees like to see. This is the form that the devotees relish. This is the form that, you know, when they're with two-armed Krishna, they don't think so much that Krishna is God. They just think, this is my son. So Krishna agreed to relinquish his four-armed Vishnu form and appear before Devaki as the two-armed form of Krishna. Yeah. So these are the workings of the internal potency. But Krishna, whenever Krishna appears, it's the internal. Basically, to destroy the demons, Krishna comes as Vishnu. But when the business of the managerial issues, the managerial job of destroying the demons intersects with relishing pastimes with the devotees, we notice how out of Vishnu comes Krishna. That doesn't mean that Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu. Not at all. It means that Krishna who reserves himself for loving relationships with his devotees cannot resist. He cannot remain in form and etiquette and majesty and protocol. He cannot do that. It breaks down and he just comes before his devotees in his original two-armed form as Krishna. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling down and around, down to Kanyakumari and then up to Maharashtra. So he came to Sri Rangam. And it coincided with Chaturmas, the 4 months of the rainy season. He stayed there for 4 months. He noticed a Brahmin who was illiterate, who would come every day and read the Bhagavad Gita. How did he know he was illiterate? Because half the time the book was upside down. And the Brahmin was, but the most curious thing was that tears would run down the cheeks of the Brahmin while he was reading. The other Brahmins would make fun of him. They say, how are you reading the Bhagavad Gita? What chapter are you on? They elbow each other in the ribs and chortle aside. Lord Chaitanya went up to this Brahmin and he said, tell me what you're doing. The Brahmin said, well, you know, my spiritual master told me to read Bhagavad Gita every day, but I'm illiterate, and so I'm going through the motions, trying to read, but I really can't read. So Lord Chaitanya said, why are you crying? He said, well, I look at this picture. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sabram prabhat iti matva vedanti mam buddha bhava samamita mata parataram nyanyat kinchidastinam mayataram idam sam sutre managina. That Lord, who is the source of everything. From him comes Vishnu, Brahma, Shiva, millions and millions of universes. On him, everything rests as pearls are strung on a thread. That Lord who by his remote potencies causes the entire material and spiritual worlds to work according to the most precise engineering. That Lord has descended and become, to help his devotee out, become his chariot driver. And I just cried. What would we call chariot driver today? Chauffeur. Chauffeurs are not high on the social ladder, are they? And then think about the circumstances. You are enduring a battle when people are shooting arrows at you at supersonic speeds, and you have to sometimes evade and sometimes take advantage of pauses to attack, dart in and dart out. So it isn't time to say, "Oh, Lord of Lords, Master of, creation, I bow down before you and offer my obeisances to you. Could you please make a left turn?" There isn't time for those niceties on the battlefield. So Arjuna is saying, left, right, stop, 45 degrees, half speed, 3/4 speed. That Lord, out of fear of whom sun rises every day, seasons change, planets speed on their way, and death chases everyone. That Lord who orders everybody, who by his remote, not even by his personal presence, but by his remote potencies, orders and controls everything, every atom, every sparrow. That Lord is taking orders. Arjuna is tolerating Arjuna barking orders at him in the heat of battle. And not only is he tolerating, but he enjoys it. He relishes it. So the Brahmin was crying. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "You are the real reader of the Bhagavad Gita. You are the real reader of the Bhagavad Gita." Krishna is such that he's so desirous of reuniting with us that all we have to do is give our might. Ihayasya hare dasha manasa kamana gira. We have three things. Manasa kamana gira. We have our mind, we have our deeds, and we have our manasa kamana gira, and our wealth. Our minds, our deeds, and our wealth. So if we tender really just our willingness, if we just tender to the lotus feet of the Lord, our willingness to let him bring us home, to let him guide our steps, to let him protect us, to let him enlighten us, then if we give ourselves, such as we are, to him, then he gives himself to us. You can't imagine. And that's why the Brahmin was crying, to contemplate this largesse, infinite, unlimited mercy on the part of the Lord. Now we need to also clarify that it's not just that there's one God and there's millions and millions of devotees vying with each other, competing with each other in the spiritual world to get a moment of his attention. It's not that if you were to become liberated, the first thing would happen when you get into the spiritual world is you get in the back of a long line, waiting for years and years and years to finally come to the point where you shake hands to the Lord welcomes you, and then you move past him. No, that's not how it works. The Lord's mystic power consists in not only creating and maintaining and managing innumerable material and spiritual worlds, but the Lord's mystic power consists in, so far as his internal potency is concerned, each and every, as the case may be, in the spiritual world, each and every, as the case may be, individual or group, whatever is suitable, they think that the Lord is with me and me only. That's his mystic power. He's with every individual or every group as needed, so fully. I mean, don't you love it when you're talking to someone and they're not checking their cell phone, they're not tapping their knee, they're not looking at their watch. They're actually giving you they're giving you the gift of their full attention. I mean, we don't
even find that commonly among our family members. We're so busy, so distracted all the time. If you're a parent, make note, your children, more than anything else, gifts, education, tools, the best gift that you can give them is the gift of your undivided attention. And it's much rarer than you would think. Now here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead giving you his undivided attention. The gift of his undivided attention. So at this point, we talk about the 16,000 wives, right? And you know, when Krishna is with each individual and with each group, he is so present at that moment and with those people and in that conversation and joking or whatever is being relished there from a relational point of view, that he's not aware of simultaneously being in conversations and groups and companionship unlimitedly elsewhere either. He really is here now. He's also here now. He's also here now. He's also here now. We can't do that, but God can do that because he is Yogeshwara. He's the master of all mystic powers. So sometimes foolish people, uneducated people, people with a full fund of knowledge, Naham Prakasha Sarvasha Yogamaya, they think that, well, Krishna's had so many wives, he's lusty. An ordinary man, if he has 2 or 3 wife and girlfriend or whatever, that's lusty. 16,000 goes way beyond lust. That goes into transcendence. At the time, one of the ungodly named Narakasura had captured 16,000 princesses. And they had been in his palace for some time. And Krishna took care of Narakasura, also called Bhaumasura, and freed the princesses. And after freeing them, he said, now you can go home. And they said, no, we can't. Krishna, no, we can't. According to the mores of the times, a girl who had spent time in another man's home, even if it was unwillingly, there was always some doubt about her affections. We know the Stockholm syndrome, that sometimes the kidnapped person or the captive person, after spending time with their kidnapper, develops affection for them. That's called the Stockholm syndrome. So they were aware of this even back in those days. And even though it was no fault on the part of these princesses, they said, we can't go back home now. No eligible bachelor would marry us because our fidelity would be questionable. And they said, that's okay, because all we ever wanted was to marry you. All we ever wanted was to be your wife. So it worked out pretty well. And Krishna says, well, but there's 16,000 of you and only one of me. So how's that going to work out? They said, Krishna, you're in every atom. You're in the heart of every living being. You are one in the spiritual world. But even there, you multiply yourself so many times. And each and every expansion of Krishna is independent of the other. They're all working independently. Prabhupada says a yogi can do up to 10 expansions, but the expansions are just mirror images of the original. But Krishna in the spiritual world, he's expanding himself unlimited times, and each expansion acts independent. So the princesses said, Krishna, we know. You're in every atom, you're in every heart. You appeared from the womb of Devaki, but you could have appeared from anywhere, here, because you're fully present within each and every atom. You're simultaneously in the spiritual world, and you're simultaneously fully present within each and every atom, within the hearts of every living being in this material. The princess said, you could marry 16 million, you could marry 16 billion, and it wouldn't even begin to tap your mystic powers, your yogic energies. And Krishna said, okay, you got me. You got me. Prabhupada says this ability is called Vaibhava, or the transcendental potency of the Lord. And because he can do this, expanding business, he is known as Yogeshwar. Ordinarily, a yogi or mystic is able to expand himself utmost to 10-fold expansions, but the Lord can do so to the extent of as many thousands or even millions as he likes. Now, just finishing up here, and want to ask questions. What time is it? 6:44 Utah time. Just finishing up here. Underline this point that Krishna's mystic power consists in him being here and here and here and here and here and here, acting independently all the while, and even forgetting in one manifestation what he's doing in another manifestation out of love. Just like Devaki was bewildered in the presence of Vishnu, Krishna is so enamored with his devotees, and these are his products, these are his creations. He's like the master craftsman who enjoys the results of his work, the master watchmaker who enjoys watching his watches, his products work. So Krishna is so fully present in front of each and every devotee that he's not simultaneously aware. He loses himself out of love. And so Narada Muni wanted to see for himself this mystic power of the Lord. So first of all, Narada Muni went to where the Lord was in a palace in Dwarka with Rukmini. And as soon as the Lord saw Narada Muni, he got up, he did arti, he worshipped him, he gave him something to eat. They had a nice conversation. So then it says here in the Krishna book, after departing from the palace of Rukmini, Naraji wanted to see further activities of Lord Krishna's internal potency. Thus he entered the palace of another queen. There he saw Lord Krishna engaged in playing chess with his dear wife and Uddhava. The Lord immediately got up from his personal seat and invited Narada Muni to sit there. The Lord again worshipped him with as much paraphernalia for reception as he had used in the palace of Rukmini. After worshiping properly, Lord Krishna acted as if he did not know what had happened in the palace of Rukmini. See, if Narada Muni had showed up at this second palace and Krishna said, yeah, you were just there 5 minutes ago, it wouldn't have been as powerful, would it? It wouldn't have been as intimate, wouldn't have been as loving. So Krishna acted as if he hadn't seen Narada Muni 5 minutes ago and hadn't received him and offered him arti. Why? To make Narada Muni feel always welcome and to let him know that Krishna never tires of serving his devotees. So much so that he seems to have forgotten what he did with Narada Muni 5 minutes ago. He then entered another palace. This time Naraji saw that Lord Krishna was engaged as an affectionate father, petting his small children. From there he entered another palace and saw that Lord Krishna was preparing to take his bath. In this way, Saint Narada entered each and every one of the 16,000 residential palaces of Lord Krishna, and in each of them he found Krishna engaged in a different way. Sri Narada saw all these activities of the Lord, who is the super soul of all living entities, but who played the role of an ordinary human being to manifest the activities of his internal potency. Smiling within himself, Narada addressed the Lord as follows: My dear Lord of all mystic powers, object of the meditation of great mystics, the extent of your mystic power is certainly inconceivable, even to great demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. And I'll just finish up here with a statement by Srila Prabhupada and then time for some questions. One should know definitely that such pastimes cannot be performed by anybody but Lord Sri Krishna. Not by Brahma, not by Shiva, not by Vishnu, who is the original cause of creation, manifestation, and dissolution of the whole cosmos. Anyone who attentively hears the narrations of the Lord's pastimes in Dwarka or supports a preacher of the Krishna conscious movement will certainly find it very easy to traverse the path of liberation and taste the nectar of the lotus feet of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. I guess you can just unmute yourself or put it in the chat too.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such a wonderful class. At this point, anybody has a question, please unmute yourself. The rest can please mute, keep yourself. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I have a question. So,
This is Lalit.
yes, this is Lalit. Yes. So you mentioned that Krishna. Maybe I misunderstood. That's what I'm trying to clarify. So you mentioned that Krishna is not really a form of Vishnu, but not really an incarnation, but a form in himself. So I got a little bit confused there. Can you please elaborate?
Says departure eva dashantaram. Do you know this verse from Brahma Samhita? Deepa means flame, right? Departure eva hi dashantaram. And this is Lord Brahma from his own composition, Brahma Samhita. He says that just as a flame can light another flame or two or three or even 100, and then that subsequently lit flame is just as powerful as the original. So similarly, the original Swayambhavan Krishna, he empowers all the various Vishnu forms, the Mahavishnu, Karnadakshay Vishnu, Shirodakshay Vishnu, and then from the Vishnu come the sub-creators, Brahma and Rudra and so on and so forth. So Lord Brahma, the creator, he says that the singularity, the original source is Krishna. So from Krishna, you get millions and millions of Vishnus. But from Vishnu, you don't get Krishna. And that's how it's taught incorrectly in most world religions classes. And I don't know where this came from, because Jayadev Goswami, in the 12th century, he wrote Gita Govinda. And he's the one that originally, Keshava Drita, Nina, Sarira, Jaya Jagadisha Hari, he's the one that originally poeticized and popularized the Das Avatar. He didn't include Krishna as one of the 10 incarnations. And in his commentary, he says, Krishna is not an incarnation of Vishnu. Vishnu, millions and millions of Vishnus are incarnations of Krishna. Now, even if for argument's sake, you wanted to say that Krishna comes through Vishnu, it still holds. Just like, for instance, in Utah, our governor's a Republican and the president is a Republican, right? So if the president who's a Republican were going to visit Utah, he would do it through the governor, isn't it? Because he wants to strengthen the role of the governor in Utah so that another Republican will get reelected. If he bypassed the governor and just showed up, that would undercut the image of the governor. You see what I'm saying? He would lose support. So even if for argument's sake, you say that Krishna came through Vishnu, still he's the source of Vishnu. He's like the president compared to the governor.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else? Any other question? Go ahead, Vijay Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, this is Ram Tulsidas. Prabhu, just have one question is, many devotees who worship Shiva, Lord Shiva, they consider Lord Shiva as supreme. And they think that, like, the Vaishnavas, they don't consider those like the Shastras based on Lord Shiva, and rejects Lord Shiva as supremacy. So how we tackle, because there are a lot of slokas in the Vedas and in different Puranas, that it seems as if, like, when we read these slokas, it seems as if Lord Shiva is the supreme. So how we defect this kind of arguments?
Okay, let's start with let's make a conclusion from the theme of today's talk that Krishna is not about management. He's all about love and intimacy. So basically, Krishna's not. He's not. I hope you understand. If this is taken out of context, I'm going to be thrown out of the movement. So try to understand the context, okay? In terms of management, Krishna's not God. You understand what I'm saying? Krishna doesn't want to be God. He just wants to be Krishna and engage in loving pastimes. Nikunjayuno ratikeri sidai. See what I'm saying? So he makes Vishnu God. He makes Shiva God. So there's nothing wrong in saying they're God. Krishna doesn't even mind that, because he doesn't want to be known as God. He wants to be known as your friend, as your son, as your lover. That's how Krishna wants to relate with you. He doesn't want to be your God. So Vishnu acts as God, Shiva acts as God. Otherwise, it says Goloka Vinivasati Akalatma Bhuto. Krishna never sets foot out of Vrindavan. And if we see during the pastimes of Krishna and in the Krishna book, Krishna acting in many occasions in his original two-armed form, it's only because he's fulfilling the desires of his devotees. Otherwise, the business of killing demons is not really Krishna's business. There's no killing demons in Goloka Vrindavan. There's the sense of demons, so that will cause everyone to want to take shelter and to look to Krishna. But in Goloka Vrindavan, there isn't any killing of demons. So even in the material world, the mood for killing demons is Vishnu, but to please the devotees, it's Krishna. So we don't have a problem with people seeing Vishnu or Shiva as God. It's I don't think Krishna would even have a problem. Now, please don't go and say, Charu said this and Charu said this, because my remarks are predicated by 45 minutes of philosophy, okay? So if you just go out and tell someone Charu says Krishna's not God, I'm going to be in hot water. So please don't do that. But do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes Krishna worships Shiva too, But then again, as far as love is concerned, Shiva says, Aradhanam Sarvasham, Vishnu Aradhanam Param. This is from Padma Purana. A Devi asked him, is there anyone you worship? A lot of people worship you as God, and they're not wrong, because you are Krishna in touch with the material energy, specifically tamagun, the mode of ignorance. You are Krishna's compassion expansion to shelter all the ghosts and demons and hobgoblins in the mode of ignorance. So when Krishna gives shelter to people in the mode of ignorance, then Krishna becomes Shiva. But Shiva never becomes Krishna. That's not to say that Shiva is the original cause of all causes. See what I'm saying?
Yes, bro.
So anyway, so he says to Devi, he says the best worship is Vishnu, Tajmat Paratvaram Tadiyanam Sama. But better than worship of Vishnu is the worship of Vishnu's devotees. So even Ram went from, on the way back, he stopped at Rameshwar and he worshiped Lord Shiva as a devotee. God worshipped as Shiva as a devotee, Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. He's working on behalf of Krishna. He's working as Krishna in the mode of ignorance. Obviously, if you're dealing with the mode of ignorance, you're not going to be threefold bending, playing a flute, raven back hair. You're not. That's not the form and the mood to deal with people in the mode of ignorance. Shiva is just perfect as God for people in the mode of ignorance.
I got you, bro. Okay, bro. Hariri.
Yeah. If anybody else has a question, or you could also type your question in the chat box.
I'm not seeing the chat box. I don't know why it disappeared.
I can read it out if some question comes. Prabhuji, I have a question. One is that we are chanting, this is the most fallen age, but the process is quite simple or easier than the previous yugas. And sometimes we feel that this question comes up as well, that can Krishna not give us some sign in reciprocation that I am here, I'm right here, some miracles, some reciprocation, some way. I can't see him personally, but maybe in my dream or something that, yes, I'm doing the right thing. So that question sometimes comes up that we find it difficult in Kali Yuga, Maya is strong, only if Krishna could give us some signs.
Upendra was a person who made me a devotee. He had been Prabhupada's personal servant for 1 year in San Francisco, and then Prabhupada sent him to Australia. And I was in Australia, and I met him and started coming to the temple. And so he was the first devotee I met, and he made me a devotee. So on one of Prabhupada's subsequent visits to Australia, Upendra was with him. They had a very special relationship. And so Upendra said, you know, Prabhupada, I've been in the Krishna conscious movement for like 18 months. And he said, when will I get a sign? You know, when will I get a sign that, you know, I'm making some progress and I'm becoming Krishna conscious? And Prabhupada said, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam vibhyantite. Krishna has always given us signs. I mean, you wouldn't be where you are right now. You wouldn't be chanting Hare Krishna if you hadn't been directed there by Krishna within the heart. Tesham evan, I am within the heart and I'm directing the wanderings of all living entities. Ishvara sarva bhutanam. So we wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for Krishna's grace.
If you believe in the idea of...
I'm sorry. What?
Somebody unmuted them by mistake.
Huh?
Somebody unmuted them by mistake.
Oh, okay. Okay. So Prabhupada said, I mean, you know, Krishna, the fact that I take a breath, that's a miracle. The fact that I woke up this morning, that's Krishna's mercy. The fact that I have a family that loves me and I love them. There are miracles all around you. There isn't anything that is not a sign from Krishna, okay? You just have to open your eyes, that's all. It said, what was that prayer? Hark, they whisper, no, I forgot. Anyway, I forget there's a certain poem like that. There's nothing about this creation, there's nothing about our day-to-day life that isn't magical, but you have to be aware of it. You have to be open to the miracles that are all around us. But in answering Upendra, Prabhupada said, the magic begins, okay? The magic begins, Tesham satati yuktanam, when one is always engaged in the service of Krishna. That's when the magic begins. Otherwise, you serve Krishna 10%, Krishna reciprocates 10%, right? 4th chapter, 11th verse, Yeyata mamprabha tam sataiva, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So Krishna's given you that
many signs to get you to where you are now. You wouldn't be on this call, you wouldn't be associating with devotees, taking prasadam, if Krishna hadn't signed you to this point. But if you want the magic, then your goal should be to some or other get up to 100%. To be always serving Krishna, always thinking of Krishna in some way, shape, or form. When we get to 100%, then Prabhupada said, the magic begins. That's when Krishna shows up and shows out. When you do 100%, then it becomes 10,000%. Until then, Krishna is going to nourish you. He's going to encourage you. He's going to speak to you from within the heart. He's going to give you the guru and a good association. And he's going to take care of you. He's going to couch you. He's going to protect you. He's going to guide you. So you can make steady progress in devotional service. But the miracle, the magic begins when you're like Kunti. When your love it's not mechanical anymore. Your love spontaneously flows to Krishna. Krishna in the morning, Krishna in the afternoon, Krishna in the evening, Krishna, 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 Krishna. And that's happening incrementally. Don't doubt it. Don't doubt it. As long as you're chanting a certain number of rounds, taking prasadam, associating with the devotees, you are becoming more Krishna conscious. You are making progress. And Krishna is giving you the signs and the inspiration to keep moving forward. Now, don't retreat. Don't give up. And any opportunity that you have to leap forward, don't miss it, take it, with the goal that we want to be 100% engaged in Krishna's service. At that point, the magic begins.
In the same, thank you, Prabhuji. In the same extension of the same question, you said take a leap, the signs are there. But then what do I prioritize? My Krishna consciousness or my own family life and my work? What is important? Because to be 100%, how can I become 100%? If
there's all kinds of considerations here. One is, of course, donate. When you donate, you think of Krishna. Don't think of giving 10%. Think of giving 100% to Krishna, and Krishna gives you 90% back. Okay, so don't just think of giving 10% or 5% or 2%. Think of giving 100%, and then Krishna gives you 90%, 95% back, so you can maintain your family, save for emergencies like this, like that. So if we think of Krishna as our employer, as Krishna as our source, the economy is not our source, our boss is not our source, Intel is not our source, Microsoft is not our source. Krishna is our source. And then just recognize that that belongs to Krishna. He's the owner and the proprietor. And so we give him 100% every month, and then he gives us back however much, and we should be honest, right? We should be honest. We just need transportation. We don't need the sizzle car to impress our neighbors. We just need transportation, okay? For a family of 4, we just need, a 3-bedroom house. We don't need a 5-bedroom house, okay? There's a difference between our needs and our greeds, okay? So give to Krishna and save also. This is a rainy day. I hope you all have savings. There's nothing in Krishna consciousness that says you can't save. But you have to recognize that everything belongs to Krishna and have the mentality that I'm working for Krishna, and give 100%, and then just honestly take back what you need in terms of day-to-day necessities, retirement, even college funds, and emergencies. But always give that first check of the month to Krishna, okay? So give 100%, and then Krishna gives you back. Now, another thing you do is, I go to Chopati every once in a while. Last time I was in Chopati, you know, they have these home programs. I'm sure some of you have been to them. So you go to these home programs in an apartment somewhere, and somebody got all of his co-workers to come to a home program. And you look out over the crowd, and everybody's got neck beads, everybody's got japa beads, and these are devotees who lived for some time in the Chopati temple, and then there's a point where they say, well, you either stay and become a brahmachari, or you go out and get married. Okay, so these are the ones that lived in Chopati or lived in one of the satellite temples. They lived in one of the Krishna houses while they were going to college. They went to Mangal Arti, they chanted their rounds, they took prasadam, they got a cut in their rent. And then they decided to go out and then go ahead and do their business and make their family. So these people are very, very Krishna conscious. And when they go to work, they distribute books. They're a light. They're an example of what it means to be a spiritual person. They don't buy into the culture. They don't have the same appetites, the same ambitions. They don't get upset by the same things as their co-workers. And it's not long before that all comes to the attention of their co-workers. So they realize there's something different about this person. They're not conditioned in the same way we are. They don't lose it. They don't get hysterical when something goes wrong. They're calm in a crisis. And so what happens is these people transform the whole atmosphere in the office. Prasadam, books, home programs, and so on and so forth. So, of course, you know, the most important thing is make sure your own Krishna conscious foundation is strong, associate with other devotees. But a lot of strengthening on ourselves will also depend on how much we share, how much we're willing to represent Krishna consciousness to others. If we're ashamed of Krishna, then Krishna is going to be ashamed of us. You know, if we're timid and ashamed, then maybe, you know, Krishna might not bless us as much as somebody who's a little bit more proud, who likes to brag a little bit more about his God. And the thing is, if you're bright, if you have a good attitude, if you smile even when things aren't going right, if you don't gossip, go to lunch and complain about the boss all the time, if you're at work on time, if you leave on time and you don't waste your time talking or going on the internet with other people, then you're going to make yourself indispensable in that office. You bring prasadam, you know, people get used to the cookies or the halva or the books. You know, these are all ways to make the workplace like the spiritual world.
It was very powerful. Thank you. Very inspirational also. Not many devotees can say that, give 100% and Krishna will give 90% back. Prabhuji, there was one question that came to me on the chat.
What was that again? What was that again?
I said that was very inspiring, what you said. And what you said about give 100%, whatever you do, Krishna will give you 90-95% back. Was very powerful.
Okay, I'm not sure I said that, but anyway.
You said something like that don't hesitate to may it be in action or in whatever service you do for Krishna, correct?
Well, if we give 100% of our time and our energy, then Krishna is going to give 10,000%. That was my main.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. At the office, you know, I mean, it may not, you know, our office work may not be directly Krishna conscious, but if we give 100% to it, thinking that Krishna is my boss, that it's Krishna who I have to please, then we will set the mood of the whole workplace.
There was a question in the chat box to me by Abhinav. Will you go to Vrindavan if you believe in the idea of God and worship the Lord in your own religion? example, Christians worship Jesus. Will they
I asked Prabhupada one time, I said, if Christians gave up eating meat, could they go to the spiritual world? And he said, of course. Of course. In fact, Christianity is, it's so rich. It's so rich. The literature, the stories, the parables, it's so rich. The only thing is that the whole culture gets spoiled by the practice of eating meat. I don't recall any instance where Prabhupada criticized Christian theology or Christian literature or even Christian beliefs. The only thing he had to say was, stop disobeying. It says, Prabhupada used to say Jesus Christ, but I mean, it's the 10 Commandments, but obviously Christ endorses whatever his father says. Prabhupada said, thou shalt not kill. He said, as long as you're killing, directly disobeying the commandment, then how are you going to make spiritual advancement? So, religion by definition awakens God consciousness. And that's what religion does. But then don't disobey the instructions of your spiritual master, because that will undo all the good that everything else does.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Anybody else has a question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Ram Sharan Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Could you share some of your Prabhupada interactions with your Prabhupada?
I had mentioned the Krishna Light Show. We go Facebook Live on Sundays at 1 o'clock Mountain Daylight Time. It's from my Facebook page, True Utah. And there's a book, it's probably reversed, but it says The Great Transcendental Adventure by Kormadas. And he tells the whole story of Australia Yatra. And when someone wants me to reminisce, and I want to refresh my memory, I just go to the index under Caru. There's so many different stories. So we had our first Krishna Light Show last Sunday, and I was just going to read through the book, week after week, and it will trigger recollections. So the first segment, we're just reading the introduction, or the preface, I think it was, and it was written by a man, I forget what his name was, but he's Professor Madhya Vin de Cruz, and this book is out of print, but it's really good book. And I just noticed after reading the preface that he taught at La Trobe University, and that triggered a memory. Whenever Prabhupada came between 70 and 75, I would always organize television appearances and public speaking and college appearances. So I'd organized a speaking program for Prabhupada at a university in Melbourne called La Trobe University. And they'd allotted an auditorium, maybe 300-400 seats. And when we got there, it was packed. And that should have told me something. I should have been suspicious because, anyway, I should have been suspicious. And you have to remember, this is the 60s. People were really radical in those days. There were pockets of severe radicalism. The Students for a Democratic Society, the Black Panthers. There were white college kids who were followers of Mao Zedong, Che Guevara. Radicalism was very rife. We haven't seen that level of radicalism among youth, and particularly in college campuses, for more than 40 years. And so, the Hare Krishnas come to campus, 50 I would have thought would be a good crowd, 60 people, but we had
There was no place to sit. There were people in the back in the aisles, and I should have been suspicious. Turned out they wanted to start a riot. They wanted to take what they perceived of as the leaders, and they had a Maoist group on campus, not Chinese, just Westerners. And what they wanted to take they perceived Hare Krishna as something that was imported to Australia from America. And I mean, I was American, Madhavisa was American, otherwise everybody was Australian, probably was Indian. I don't really know what their rationale was, but they wanted to create an incident. And so the place was packed, and probably 250 to 300 of them were there to start trouble. They were just looking for an excuse. It was like the proverbial tinderbox, just looking for a match. And we had no clue. We're just devotees, and we chanted, and a big seat for Prabhupada. Prabhupada got about 20 minutes into his lecture, and we were all sitting down on the stage, and there were two twin staircases that went up, and then there were 4 sections of seats, and then people standing up at the top, and then a lobby. So Prabhupada got about 20 minutes into his lecture, and someone shouted a real obscenity, highly insulting to Prabhupada. And so Buddhi Manta and I, we realized that we should have posted people up there in the beginning, but we didn't. So we couldn't identify who it was. We just heard this voice insulting Prabhupada. And so we went up there and we stood at the top of the stairs amongst the other standing people out in the lobby. And so Prabhupada spoke another 5 minutes, and then the guy yelled up again. And it turned out he was the ringleader. So we didn't want to create an incident. So Buddhi and he just happened to be standing between me and Buddhi Manta. So we each kind of firmly and gently took an arm. We took one of his arms, I on this side, Buddhi Manta on the other side, and we're facing the lobby, and we're facing the exit, and he's kind of wedged between us, and he's facing the auditorium, okay? So we're just moving him out. Now, there's one hot-headed Australian devotee named Sabapati, former surfer, and we didn't even see it, but he comes off the stage, roaring up the aisles with his fists cocked, and this poor guy, this poor agitator, he's got his arms pinned, and he sees it coming the whole way, and the crowd, this is the opportunity they had hoped for, but Sabapati was too quick up the stairs for anybody to tackle him or stop him. So in plain view of an incendiary crowd, a crowd just looking for an excuse, and this guy couldn't raise his arms to defend himself, and Buddhiananta and I had no idea what was going on behind us. Sabapati throws this punch from about 30 yards out, right in his face. I never saw it, but obviously all pandemonium broke out after that. All I know is I went down on the floor, and I was being kicked and punched, and I was sore for about a week. And we had to get Prabhupada out of there, so they exited by a side door, and we had 2 Volkswagen Combi vans. The students had already stashed paint buckets and rocks beforehand in various parts of campus. So as Prabhupada's van left, he left early enough that they were able to outrun these students. There were some students on a bridge above the road, so that when Prabhupada's van exited, they jumped cans of paint on the vehicle, but they weren't actually able to throw any stones at Prabhupada's vehicle. So then I gathered up the remaining devotees, and we were about 5 minutes. We saw Prabhupada's van way out in the distance, but by now there were students coming to head us off with stones and rocks, and there were students on this bridge. And I was driving, so there was a bus, and I just got off the road. I jumped the curve. I was going through a field and keeping the bus between us and the kids with the stones, and then I went around the bridge, and we made it back. So that wasn't a like Prabhupada said story, but that was that was an incident that occurred during one of Prabhupada's speaking engagements in Melbourne, Australia.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So my question is, Prabhuji, you gave nice example about father and sons. So similarly, I have a question, like in family, we have seen some are devotees and some are not. They believe Krishna as incarnation, but they don't believe as supreme. So how can we tell them like Krishna is supreme? How can we invoke?
You know, sometimes it's grandfather, great-grandfather, grandmother. You know, it's so ingrained in them. It's all they saw when they were a child. They only saw Ganesh being worshipped. They only saw Shiva being worshipped. So, you know, again, the preaching that you do by your example is going to, in many cases, be more important than what you do with your words. For instance, if you're at the workplace and you have a good attitude and you don't get upset and you don't go along with the crowd, people are going to want to hear what you have to say. But you're preaching with your life. You're not, you know, it sounds to me like, you know, you don't want to just get into an argument with somebody about Krishna Supreme, Shiva Supreme, because as I mentioned, Krishna is big enough, Krishna is powerful enough that within Krishna consciousness, you know, Shiva's not excluded, you know, Vishnu's not excluded. We give a lot of importance to Shiva, you know, we give a lot of importance to Vishnu, you know, Lakshmi, we give a lot of importance to them. We don't minimize, we don't make the mistake of equating the demigods with Krishna. But to be a demigod, Prabhupada said that we would have to take 1,000 births to even begin to understand the powers of the least of the demigods. So if people get the sense that you're disrespecting the deity, you know, the Ishta Deva, that their family has been worshiping for generations, they are not going to be happy with you at all. And so it's a better strategy just to not let any criticism or censure cross your vows. You know, that's fine. Shiva's great, Krishna's great, so on and so forth. There are many stories about Lord Shiva, you know, like drinking the poison, saving the world, so on and so forth. I think Shiva gave Krishna his Sudarshan chakra, isn't it? Am I wrong? I may be wrong. So anyway, the thing is, as Vaishnavas, you know, we're meant to show respect, even to an ant. What to speak of someone like Shiva, who is Vaishnavanam Yata Sambhu. And I know that many devotees have been like very cutting and very dismissive of Shiva, Brahma, and other deities that people have been worshiping in their family for generations. You know, I'll just give you an example. We had one fellow, he worked for Siemens. He's from Gurugram, but he came over as an engineer for Siemens, and he was working on a power plant down the road. His name was Devendra. And you know, he ended up being here a year. He was supposed to come for 3 months, but he ended up being here a year. And he used to chant 10 rounds a day of Lord Shiva from his father. And he said, true, you know, I hear you talking about Krishna, and you know, my conditioning is to do japa, Shiva japa. And I said, that's fine. I said, you know, that's fine. You know, that's fine. I said, if you want, instead of 10 rounds all Shiva, you could do maybe 1 round. Maybe just do 9 rounds Shiva and 1 round Hare Krishna. Would you feel comfortable with that? I said, yeah, I could do that. And he was very pious. He'd come every Sunday. So at the end of the year, he came to me and he said, true. He said, I'm chanting 10 rounds Hare Krishna. And I didn't argue him. I didn't persuade him. I didn't convince him. I said, I'm very happy. I'm very happy that you worship Shiva. Why don't you just do little Krishna, add it in. And then as he began chanting and reading and learning more, then he himself, he encouraged himself to become pretty much 100% a Christian devotee without rejecting or negating or minimizing the power of Lord Shiva.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, one last final question if anybody has, otherwise we'll end the call. Okay, so thank you, Prabhuji, for taking the time out, and